What's up, everybody? I'm Ryan Rex, and I'm here today with Kelvin Cruz of a little band you may have heard of called A Thorn for Every Heart. What's up, Kelvin? How about you introduce yourself? Like, what you do in this band called A Thorn for Every Heart?
Yes, sir. Hello there, Ryan. I'm Kelvin Cruz. I am the lead singer of A Thorn for Every Heart. I have been with the band basically since its inception. We started touring early 2004. We wrote our own debut EP, self recorded, produced, mixed, mastered everything in 2003. Started getting some buzz and word of mouth online through websites like Smart Punk and AbsolutePunk.net and just the wave of up and coming bands in the screamo and post hardcore scene, and loved every minute of it. And here we are, almost more than 20 years later now,
Oh,
and
man.
still somewhat going.
I mean, you guys got shows lined up
But
with a recently returning band, Static Lullaby, and I mean, you're going out there with Juliana Theory. I mean, playing a couple dates. That's pretty freaking cool. I mean, I think you're still thumping.
yeah, so we've been known, we're what we like to refer to as chucklers or chuckle fucks, in that we have never really completely disbanded or quit or whatever. Like, I guess according to Wikipedia, indefinite hiatus, but we always talk about music. We've played a few shows here and there since the heyday. Did some emo nights, did a couple of solo gigs, also with Static Lullaby back in 2016, and then an emo night in 2018. And then, of course, sat out the pandemic like most people. But we did start kind of dabbling and recording some both new music and re recording previously unreleased stuff. So it's gonna happen. When, who the fuck knows, but it will happen. And super pumped about the show coming up at the Observatory February 8th with a Static Lullaby and, of course, Juliana Theory. We love Static. We go back with them since more than their inception. I was actually in a band in high school with Dan and Nate, the other original guitar player for Static. My bandmate Phil from A Thorn for Every Heart was in a band with Phil Peroni, who was the original bassist for Static Lullaby. So it was kind of this whole scene of Chino Hills bands that kind of disbanded or switched members or swapped. And Static Lullaby was the first out of the gates with that sound and just that vibe that made all the rest of us that used to play with them kind of jealous and go like, oh man, that's what we should be doing. I want to do that. Fuck. And then through the passage of time and fate, it ended up coming to fruition again. And yeah, just super pumped about that show and to play with those guys. And of course, Juliana Theory, who we have never played with before. But many of us in the band have listened to them since, we were in high school. And so
Yeah.
it's just kind of cool to have another sort of moment come full circle, even all these years later, when God,
Huh.
I'm sure nobody expected us to still be playing.
I mean, that's even like a pinch me moment for yourself, where you're just because if I mean, if you ever go to the Wikipedia, Thorn for Every Heart has played with a shit ton of bands, and to not to
Yeah,
have one
we
that you
paid our
used to
dues out
listen
on the
to.
road.
Oh yeah, and to have someone that you
Yeah,
used to
and it's
listen to.
just
Yeah, it's
very
crazy.
cool. It's very cool. It's an honor, a privilege. I just love everything about it, and I love all the guys in the band. Joe from Static had hit me up randomly out of the blue like a month or two ago and was just like, "Hey, we're thinking of putting a show together. Would you guys be down?" And was like, "I'm always down. I don't know what the rest of the chucklers are gonna be up to." And then I ran it up the flagpole little band group chat that we just have and talk shit to each other in. And everybody was like, "Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it." And this was, of course, without even knowing who else was going to be on the show besides Static and us. And that was more than enough for us to say, yeah, let's dust off the cobwebs, see what we got, and have a little fun with it while we're at it.
Yeah, man. Well, what else are you doing, right?
Aside from just working the grind like most people these days, I mean, I don't think I ever lost touch of making music. I've been making music with Justin Powell from A Thorn for Every Heart. He's an amazing producer, great bass player and musician, and a dear friend. And I've made music with him, with a band,
You got,
Come On, shortly
yeah.
after Thorn for Every Heart, a side project, High Fighter, synthwave band, Nightmares in Neon. And he's done vocals for me for several, cameos and other things. And I couldn't be more thrilled to have a guy like that in my corner, and somebody that helps us with the band and is still even to this day able to kind of be that one of the driving forces and gives us the ability to still make and produce music when we can all get together and get our heads together. So he's a real asset, and it's a lucky thing to have a friend like that.
It's like the ride or die, like, no matter what, it's like, "Well, if they're busy, let's go just make a new project real quick. We'll figure it out. We'll
Yep.
make something. We'll figure out what to do with these beats."
It's a lot of times I feel like for me personally, it's not so much about making the music because it's always being made, but just not doing anything with it. Like it's there, it's done, grand plans are made. It's a little different for a Thorn for Every Heart, as we do have some difficulty with our social channels. Our Instagram's been held hostage since it was created. It was not created by anyone that is currently in the band. It has never posted one post, and yet has, I don't know, like 28 something thousand followers or 30 something thousand followers. So it's like, oh, would love to be able to get the message out to those people and those fans, but we can't. And then I believe Interscope runs, or has control over our Spotify, because we struggle to keep our independent releases on there without getting flagged by them or some other thing. It's something we're currently working with. Well, with a little luck, we're hoping to have some new stuff and some previously released stuff that disappeared back up there in the very short few weeks. So fingers crossed that that happens. Otherwise, it's going to be another series of hoops, but we will find a way to bring some new tunes to you guys before the show. So that's something to be
Oh,
excited about.
I mean, like, have you ever thought of, like, any, like, loophole around that? Like, maybe upload stuff that you do have the rights to, because I know, like, that's a whole murky water when a label gets absorbed by a bigger label and all that other stuff. There's lots of bands that go
So
through that, unfortunately. But, I mean, you ever tried,
yeah, and
just
in that regard, that's one of the things, and it's not even so much shady as it's just there are B sides and demo versions of things that have never been heard, and those are fair game. And we'll be sprinkling some of those here and there, along with re-releasing stuff that was previously out, like Pick Up the Pieces, and
yeah.
hopefully we can get this new EP, which is a collection of basically previously unreleased songs, some new material, and then a couple of B-sides or songs that were never really heard from before, even when It's Hard to Move You leaked. So there's still a few surprises in there.
I mean, worst comes to worst, like, if you can't, like, release it, like, with all the spaces, just make it all one word, maybe put X's at the front and the back, kinda just go old school MySpace name with it.
We'll figure out some way to get around it. We have tried to start an official Instagram again, and it keeps getting booted back as an imposter or whatever. It's just a pain in the ass. I myself lost my personal Instagram last year. It got just hacked, which is weird because I have the two-factor authentication and all this special security protocols, and somehow I got hacked. My band Nightmares in Neon, which was attached to my account, got hacked, so I lost like everything. Like
That's horrible.
11K followers, just memories gone, gone, gone. That was brutal. And so to have a band with similar situation is frustrating.
Yeah,
But we're just going to keep going. In the end, the music will find its way to the masses in one way or another.
yeah.
Like, there's plenty of other sites and places to release music. I'm a big fan of Bandcamp. We could put stuff up on YouTube. So expect there to be some new tunes in the next couple of weeks. It'll be before Christmas, that's for sure. No
That's
matter
good, dude.
what I have to do to make it happen,
Perseverance, man, not
it's
giving up,
coming.
but that's
Yeah,
I
and it's
mean,
you just got to keep going. That was a
Yeah,
big
I
thing about
mean,
our EP, Pick Up the Pieces, was like everything had fallen apart for the band. And we just said, all right, scrap it, go again.
nobody can stop you but you at the end of the day if you really truly think about it, because it's like you'd have every reason to like just say fuck it, quit, whatever, and it's just like, nah, why quit when this is something that you love doing?
Yeah, it's definitely a passion, something I've been in bands and singing since I was about at least 16. I'm
Yeah.
42 now, what the kids refer to as an elder emo, I suppose. But yeah, it's just growing up and going to punk shows, and especially a lot of shows at like the Showcase Theater in Corona, the Glass House in Pomona, House of Blues when it existed in Anaheim, playing at the Roxy, the Troubadour, just getting to play Warped Tour when it was still alive and thriving, and doing so many incredible things and playing with so many of the bands that I just loved,
Oh
like
yeah.
in high school and fresh out of high school, that it was just like, no way am I playing with these guys. Like, what? No way I'm like, have the same booking agent as this band. Like, no way we're sharing the same festival, like meeting celebrities and getting opportunities we didn't think we would get. All really just a dream come through. Totally grateful for it. And it's not to say that we were handed anything. Like, we roughed it. There were only a few tours that we did in fancy accommodations, such as like an RV or splitting a bus or something. It was usually just grinding that out in the van and trailer, trucking along, having a blast along the way. And I think that's the way a lot of bands should do it, and learn how to do it that way and earn your stripes, so they say.
Yeah. You guys played from 2004 and 2005 Warp Tour, am I correct?
I believe we might have played like exclusive dates after that at certain cities and shows, but we would do like chunks and portions throughout the tour. So we would maybe hit a couple of the California dates and then be like, okay, well, let's hit some on the East Coast too. So do some Florida and stuff. But did quite a few. I wish I had precise memories of all of them. They all kind of blend into just one exciting camp of summer, basically.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. Summer camp vibes, man.
Thunderstorms, getting lost, like getting injured, um, setting up merch tents, trying to hustle with megaphones and stuff, goofing around, playing Xbox and playing Halo with other bands in the van and stuff back in the day, just to kill some time. I can remember having some pretty intense Halo matches with Joe from Fallout Boy. I know we would play games with the guys in first to last. Pretty much anybody that was game. We loved hanging out with the guys from Boys Night Out. Um, got to play with the guys in A Day to Remember. We only got to play with Silverstein once, but I really always loved that band, and still a fan of them today, and always wanted to play with Hawthorne Heights. I heard at one point that they had said they liked us or something, and I was like, oh, cool. I don't know if that's true at all, but I thought that would have been a cool tour to have play with them. Um, Obviously, I always loved Taking Back Sunday, My Chemical Romance. Thursday was a big one that we got to meet. World, even though it's just a 2 show run. Wow, what a great couple of shows. And that was with Recover, us, and Jimmy Eat World. Got to play some cool shows with Seosin quite a few times. Um, God, so many,
That's like,
countless talented bands.
did you play with just because I'm a Seosin fan myself, and given your tenure of time, was it the Anthony Green Seosin or the Cove or both?
No, we never got to play a show with Anthony. At that point, I can remember when translating the name had come out, and just like our first EP and their first EP, kind of like battling it out on Smart Punk. Like we would be checking it every week, and it'd just be like number one us, number one them, number one us, number one them. And it was like this was like, yeah, there was downloading back then, but it wasn't prominent or as easy. And your CD collection of CDs in a booklet that thick was still kind of like your badge of honor back then.
Oh, yeah.
So websites like that were great for small bands like us at the time to get the word out there and to actually make some money too. And I guess I think it was just through like passing and like the closest of the genre and the time frame that we were able to play with them. But I can remember seeing them at Warp Tour, and they had it was, I think it was somebody from Story of the Year. The guitar
Mhm.
player for Story of the Year did vocals for most of the set. And then at
Yeah.
the
That was
last song, or like one of the songs, they brought out Cove, and he was like, he was good. He was, you could just tell he was so green and like so kind of reserved, and it was cool to get to see him grow into his own and do their own thing. Um, yeah, I never did get to see Anthony Green play with Samson. I still haven't. Hopefully someday. But yeah, we played a few shows with them, with Cove. A really cool New Year's Eve show at Soma, um, where they called us a thorn for every technical difficulty because everything was like not going our way for setting up with that set. I remember Phil throwing his guitar. He was so pissed. But yeah, just so many cool memories and cool times. And right when that spark had kind of just barely caught fire at the beginning of the scene, and then getting to play with bands like Finch. I would have loved to have played with the Used. We did well. I've got to see them live a few times, but that would have been so cool to play a show with them.
Oh yeah.
Um, Dashboard would have been great. God, I there's so many rad bands.
Dude, you could sit here and you're just naming good bands. That's all. I'm not even complaining. I'm just like, damn. So like around this time, like because like Absolute Punk and all these pure volume sites like that were very helpful. There was
Mm,
a site that a lot of the bands I interview on here have a common thread with, and sometimes it's Vampire Freaks. It's not Vampire Freaks today. I know I'm sure maybe you had some success there. Maybe who knows? But MySpace was this thing that for a lot of people around this time, because I mean the early advent of the internet, like most people probably don't remember AOL discs and stuff like that. Like I
yeah,
do.
no,
But
yeah.
given that
I remember having to get off the phone because you needed to use the computer, or having to get off the computer because somebody needed to use the phone. That was a bitch. And you were like 3 hours into downloading one CD that you wanted, and then you had to get off the computer, and it was like, no,
I'll see this tomorrow. Hopefully it'll be
nightmare.
downloaded. But you
Yeah.
kick yourself because you didn't check it. You didn't check it in between. You're just like, oh, I'll just like I should have checked it like maybe like 6 hours ago
Yeah.
because it just stopped downloading like 6 hours ago, and I spent 8 hours away from the computer.
Yeah. So I would, yeah, getting back to MySpace, it was a very useful tool for us, especially in between the times when we had left our label and were doing things on our own. It was a great platform still back then. I was very much against social media in its inception. Like I think I remember my thinking kind of being like, no, I I'm doing my own thing. I've got my own real life. I don't need internet friends or whatever. Like, I don't get it. Like, yeah, America Online or I am chat, like you're just that was like our texting back in the day. Like it's how you talk to people without getting on the phone or whatever. Like I got that aspect of it, but I didn't just didn't get it. And then one day
Yeah.
we're on tour, and this is probably like the heyday of like the sidekick flip phone, and everybody's on there like And I didn't have a sidekick, and I was like, could have cared less. Um, but then I'm looking over my shoulder or over the seat, and I see somebody's on MySpace, and then I'm in cool new people on MySpace. And I, what the fuck? I don't have a MySpace. What the give me that? And I'm like looking at it and I'm like, what the hell? And the guys had created a MySpace for me and they had made my sexual preferences gay, bisexual, made me just into all this stuff that I was not. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Love is love. Everybody, good for you. But it was just like, you guys, come on. Give me the password. What is it? Let me change it. And so did all my stuff as regular me. And then it was like, okay, I'm here now. And then I started paying attention to things a little more and interacting with other bands. And it was a great tool. And I've seen it go from amazing and organic and just free and like helping you reach the people you want to reach to kind of just getting all that ripped away. And it's a good, and being, this is like so old man of me, but it's like now it's like, okay, it used to be very helpful like in my cosplay origin days and like collecting a lot of collectibles and selling a lot of collectibles. Like it was a great way to reach horror fans and like-minded collectors, and also to see and get ideas for cosplay and even music, like everything. It was awesome. And then after kind of losing all of those connections and contacts when I got hacked, it just became like more like close friends and family. And some of those are people that I've met through years of cosplaying and collecting and being in bands. But it's just not really as effective as like a marketing tool for me like it once was. So that's a little bit of a double-edged sword. But in all honesty, social media can be very important and impactful for a band. Uh, I would especially say with streaming now, I just feel like it's extremely difficult for bands to make it. You're not making, unless you're just a freaking hit and you are on the road and you're making your guarantee and your guarantee is big and you're smart and you save. I don't know how anybody can do it. I don't know how we did it. And personally, I was a dumbass. I just spent my money. Not that it was ever very much, but it came and it went. It came and it went. And I didn't think about longevity of the band or how much I should have been putting into our social media channels until it was kind of already like past the peak prime to reach that audience. When now it's like you're trying to gain that audience back. So I think it's a good thing if you start out the gates and you have a game plan and you know like what it's for, but always keep the backup, baby. Especially these days. Like, running a page or running a channel, it's like, all it takes is one mistake, somebody to slip something in somewhere, and then boom, your channel's gone, or somebody reports you for something that's not even true, and then that's gone, or you can't get something back because there is no response from Meta or Instagram because they're all just using bots to respond to people. It's like it's kind of a nightmare. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of anxious to see if things kind of burn backwards, to see vinyl make a comeback, and seeing I came into like love like synthwave music a few years ago, and like
Yeah.
seeing cassettes, like bands making cassettes and stuff. And as a
Oh yeah.
horror fan, people collecting VHS. And now people, like even like my dad, they're scrambling to buy physical media because Best Buys are stopping. They're not selling DVDs or CVDs anymore. Like it could very well go away. Mine won't. My collection will be here. Um,
Yeah.
and that's just something that I would like to see come more back into music. And
Oh
I
yeah.
think if bands have a good following, then they can be very successful with those limited releases. Like I love seeing Seosid put out records on vinyl, other punk bands putting out stuff on vinyl again, synthwave bands doing, and cool pressings too. Even like horror
Mm.
score films coming back out, and then like the freaking records look amazing. Like
Oh yeah. I mean,
I'm into
I
that
was
kind of
I,
stuff.
Oh, I was like pondering out loud because I mean, vinyl is like a really cool industry. Unfortunately, it's one that gets backed up, and then you got to wait for it sometimes. But I was like,
Yeah.
I wish bands usually, because you repress a vinyl, it's an old album, but bands usually have like merch designs that they used to have way back in the day that you'll see on Redbubble, and it kind of sucks to see that like Redbubble would take old designs and the band doesn't get nothing for that. Wish bands would repress their old
Yeah.
like merch designs. That would be a cool market, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's like it's kind of like art and artists. Like I can't imagine. I know I have good friends. A good friend, Lee Howard. He does some amazing like horror mashup characters. He makes these creepy quiet room bears, which are like horrific teddy bears, which a lot of people and artists do those now. But he was like one of the first dudes that I remember just seeing do that. And
Yeah.
his shit is always popping up on like Teespring and all these other sites because they don't there's no way to police it. It's like, oh yeah, I did this art. Oh, or you can just print your own art and then start it on your website and people like it, they'll buy it. It's no different with band art, I imagine, or even logos and hell now with AI and even just so many good stock image websites and stuff. Like you, if with a little bit of know-how and a cell phone and access to that kind of library, like you don't need to get your band art designed or your t-shirts designed anywhere. You can just click, click, change, edit. Like I remember I was doing some like amateur album artwork and stuff for people. And I did one for a guy and I used like some stock images and then I edited it and added fonts and things and filters and it's funny to see like, oh shoot, like dang, a lot of people kind of already use that primary art piece for their record and like try to go and find it. And it didn't really affect anything. It still looked cool. The guy still liked it. He still paid me for it. He still used it. But even like bands like the Midnight and stuff, where you see these lit covers, and you're like, "That's cool, man." And then you're like, "Oh, wait a minute, that is literally just Shutterstock," and they just threw their band logo on it. Like, no field, no nothing. I'm like, "All right, well, if it works, it works." But it's
The
like when you
public
do that kind
domain,
of
man.
thing, and then it's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, it is what it is. Use it for free. Go ahead." And now it's like AI. It's like, ugh.
It's kind of funny, like
It's
just the public
scary
domain.
and it's exciting.
Yeah. Like
Yeah,
I
like
think
Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, and there's a Popeye horror movie coming out, and a Mickey
Wow.
Steamboat Mickey movie with horror. It's just like, oh shit, you mean you got to keep protecting that stuff? I didn't know.
I think everything has an expiration date is what the public domain teaches us, and it becomes free to use. But then it's just kind of like
Yeah,
I think Disney's gone so far out of its way to like try to find ways to like manipulate that law. I mean, so much of Hollywood stuff is just them like trying to repatent like a patent that's like hundreds of years old.
yeah. I'm curious to see what I keep waiting for is like I want to get that Kate Bush situation where like you have a hit back in the day and everybody kind of forgets about it, and then some little show Stranger Things comes out and plucks one of your jams and puts that little earworm up there, and then boom, you're a fucking millionaire again at like 20 years later. Like somewhere in a vault, somewhere at Interscope, there's a whole record. All they got to do is pluck one of those 10 songs, throw it in one hit film at one key moment, and then all of a sudden, what? Was that me? I heard your song on this show I'm watching on blah blah blah. Like what?
I mean,
That would be
if
rad.
anything is
So that
due,
it can
yeah.
happen. It can happen, and that's kind of a beauty of so much saturation with film and television and stuff right now. Like coming
Oh, man, like
as a kid
with
who grew up with 4 channels
yeah. I mean, TikTok's a
and
thing,
then to go to
man.
cable, and then it's fucking nuts. It's fucking nuts. And I feel like it's cool to be our generation. I feel like we're the kind of the last of the analog and the first of the digital. So we remember why it's called roll up the window and hang up the phone. because it's literally on a wall hanging. Um, like dial the number because it was a rotary dial. Like these are things that you would ask a
Mhm.
kid today, and they'd be like, "Eh." Like,
What are
oh,
you
we're gonna
talking?
burn some CDs later. Well, what are you gonna burn? Like, and I to the same point. Like, I work with kids and stuff, and it's like I have no idea what they're talking about half the time. It really is a pleasure to feel old sometimes because I'm like, oh man, I'm glad I don't have to know what that is. And to think like it feels like just yesterday, like I'm in my 20s on the road, being a goofball, hanging out with my favorite bands, singing The Little Mermaid, just being a dork. And now there's kids that are just like into so much crazy stuff that I wouldn't even have thought of as like an 8-year old. And they're glued to their phones and they got their own social medias. And I couldn't imagine.
Right.
No,
It's
thank you.
it's a I mean, growing up with all the differences, we adjusted. We had like a little period, like the new stuff's out, this and that, and now it's kind of just like all of like growing up, video game graphics. Every 5 years, it got a little better, it got a little better, and nowadays, I feel like everything's kind of at like a plateau peak where every iPhone
Yeah,
kind of looks the same. Every video game's graphics, it looks a little cleaner, a little sparkly. There's some like God rays or some
yeah,
shit, or you're just like, okay, I need a 4K TV to see that. But
yeah.
I feel like stuff's
Or it's
not
like
so. There's no big
the
leaps.
opposite where you get a game like Minecraft or something, and then kids are like, "This is cool." You're like, "Bro, you're like, we waited 20 years to get graphics like you guys have in video games, and now this is cool. Like, you could have, you would here, look, watch this, check out this Mario," and they're like, "That's dumb." Like, I don't know.
Just not
I was
impressed at
talking with
all.
one of my coworkers. He's like 18, and I was talking about something, and I was talking about something like I made a joke or something. I was like, "Bitch, I'm older than Sonic the Hedgehog." Like, he wasn't even around, and I was alive. And then I was thinking, like, "Oh shit, was Mario around?" Like, I was like, "Oh God, am I older than Mario? I hope not." And thank God, Mario came out 1 year before I was born, so I'm younger than Mario.
I think him and Donkey Kong are both what 1 year older than you.
Yeah, something like that. But when you're that close, I mean, it's all the same at this point. No different. I guess Mario was just that cool kid in the senior class when I was a junior, and I just wanted to be as cool as Mario. He was always stomping turtles and eating mushrooms.
He's just a class
Good
ahead,
times.
man. Good times. I
Yep,
remember
yep, yep.
Mario. He was a jerk. He owes me
He's
350, man.
still out there. He's still doing his thing, but I guess now he's Chris Pratt. So I don't know.
Yeah, Chris Pratt.
I
Yeah,
guess there
I
was
love.
no good Italian actors.
I mean, we could
If
have
he
gave us
only
Danny
did the Mario
DeVito. That was.
voice. Yeah, I think if the internet would have complained a little louder, they could have got somebody that sounded like Mario. It worked for Sonic. We
Right.
fixed him.
So,
The only
so on
time,
your
the only time ever where internet complaining worked.
we need people complaining about like a Thorn for Every Heart's like discography being on streaming because we got to galvanize them people because you guys got like a lot of fucking cool music and unfortunately it's not on streaming and it's like out of your hands and out of your control, of
No,
course. But I mean that album's
we're,
like not even
we're
on
trying to get
streaming
it
and you like
back up there on our own. I'll just tell them, hey, I think a couple years ago I tried to like petition Interscope or Universal to put it out. The funny thing is they have us in their catalog as a completely different band name because when we were going to put out the record, I think they had wanted us to change our name for the second record, and we had just signed with new management company, with Freeze Management. We were super excited, and there was all these big plans and big dreams. We had just recorded with Mark Hoppus and
yeah.
finished our last two tracks for that record, and we were like, "This is all happening." We were like in consideration to be one of the songs on Shrek 3. And
What?
like we're like, this is crazy. Yeah, so the acoustic song "You're the One" that we did with Mark Hoppus was in consideration for the soundtrack. um Smash Mouth's cover, I'm a Believer, beat us out there, which was
Damn,
unfortunate.
Smash Mouth.
But yeah, and I guess there was talk about possibly changing our name, so we are listed under that name in their catalog. So I don't know. It's very confusing.
Yeah.
Um, and there's if our guitar player has talked to them a little bit about it, and I don't think it was anything other than like, oh yeah, oh we know you guys as this. How can we help you? Oh, you can't. Oh, okay. Well, have a good one. Nice to hear from you. I don't know. I imagine it went something like that. I'll have to ask him. But
That's
there's just not really any recourse or means for us to fight for it. Like it is what it is. It's out there. I mean, you can listen to the whole damn thing on YouTube. Um, at least it's there. Um, but yeah, I hope that someday they'll just like put it up there. Like if they're in charge, then put it up there. And if not, maybe we'll have the ability to put it up there someday. And when we can, it'll stay there. There's always the possibility that someone will come and say, you can't do that. You have to take that down. And then you take it down. Oh, sorry, I didn't know I couldn't do that, officer. And then you're back onto it again. So I hope with the next batch of songs, I mean, we have all the rights for Pick Up the Pieces. And I think it was just because it was there for quite a few years, and then we just had to renew it and get it back up there. And I think we had changed email addresses or payment, something was changed to how we uploaded it, but we used the same account and it got flagged. And it just took forever to straighten out. And we are told that it's finally been straightened out. So I'm just waiting for those to go live. Fingers crossed. And if not, I've already started the process of contacting Spotify and trying to figure out a way for at least us to have some access of the like. I don't know why it's so difficult for an artist to get access to their stuff.
Yeah.
Like
I
I
mean,
could be like
there's
it,
there's always the alternative. You could always do,
just who
like
man.
the Taylor's version route, just reimagine them,
That that was
re-envision them.
actually that was actually an option when we found out that It's Hard to Move You was going to get shelved. But we had almost spent 4 years recording this record, and some of those songs were written like, shortly after we finished Things Aren't So Beautiful. And it was a good. The demos were incredible for that session, and then the record was really amazing and something special, I thought. It was definitely a tonal shift, and I do think our producer, he did lend some styling and some choices about performance and just overall sound, which we were all for. Like that's part of the process. Like if you're working with a producer and you want to get some of what their style or their sound is, and he had just worked with Panic at the Disco, the Receiving End of Sirens, and all the records that he was doing were really good sounding, so we were jazzed. I just think that it was just a bit too much of a departure from Things Aren't So Beautiful in both content and the heaviness and the sound recording style, that it might have been not quite what people were expecting. And then having it leak on top of that was probably just enough for the label to go, we want them to change their name. We want a successful record. The record has already leaked. It's already leaked under this name. This label's dead, but they're under our label. What's it going to take to get them where we want them versus just putting this somewhere? And that's what they did. They just put it somewhere. And so it's still there. But who knows? I mean, it seems dumb to me to not have it in a catalog somewhere. They paid for it. The services were rendered. You're not going to recoup it sitting in a vault. But I
Yeah,
don't know. Maybe that's just business sense. Maybe it's a tax write-off in the vault. I don't know.
that fucking sucks.
Like Warner Brothers trashing entire films. Like, yeah, we just finished the Batgirl movie. Yeah, we're not going to release it. It's going in the trash. Yep.
Write it off. That fucking it
Yeah.
sucks, man.
Must be
It's
nice
like
to write
it's not like
something on.
it's your art. It's just like something to put on a shelf, and it's just like it's not what it is to y'all. I know that for a fact. Like that's something y'all worked and spent like hard-earned time and
Yeah.
money and it's 4 years worth, and then it's just
I think, yeah. And I think with coming and getting ready for the show, a lot of us re-listened to that record because we're going to play a few songs from that record. The bulk of our set's going to be things from Things Aren't So Beautiful Now. And but we did listen and re-listen to some stuff and then re-listen to a couple of the B-sides. So we picked two B-sides that we're going to be putting out, and then we're going to be re-releasing Pick Up the Pieces, and hopefully that all drops like very close within each other in the next couple weeks. And whenever it does, we're gonna throw out the flag. Hey, here's where they go get them, and they will be available for purchase and should be available to stream as well. So worst comes to worst, they will be purchasable, and best case scenario, they should be on all platforms. So that's what I'm told. Just waiting for the official confirmation. You are the first that has been told about it, really. So there you go, kiddies. If you're listening to this, you heard it first.
we got that
So yeah,
exclusive.
once that goes live, we will post something on our social channels, and I'll drop you a line as well. But I'm excited about it, and I hadn't heard some of those songs in a long time, and the B sides were a lot cooler than I remember them even. Um, which there were so many songs that I thought were really well written and interesting songs that we didn't get to include in any of our records. And so it'll be nice to kind of revamp some of the ones that were leaked and re-record them a la Taylor style. And I'm excited to kind of hear us bring the edge back to those songs. And we've picked, the choice nugs of that record to include with both a couple new songs and then a few more surprises, hopefully.
The choice snugs. I love that choice
Choice
of words.
nugs. Choice nugs. I'm from California, man.
I
That's what
I
we
too.
did.
I originally I grew
Yeah.
up out there, and Chino Hills ain't too far away from the Inland Empire. I mean, I grew up all over California. I lived in Sacramento for like 5 years. I lived in Central Coast for a little while. It's a great place. I love California.
Yeah.
People that don't like California, like either
Ah,
you live there or you never live there.
yeah, probably true. Yeah, I've lived Chino Hills most of my life. Born in Fullerton, lived in Anaheim for a while, Huntington Beach, lived in Nagel, um, all over really, Ontario. But we always
Oh,
stomped around everywhere out there. That town has grown leaps and bounds, and since I was growing up there, um, which is cool and interesting to see. Like, I don't know. I never thought there would be more than one high school in Chino Hills. Like when I first lived there, the South Freeway was Death Alley. It was just a two-lane highway, no divider. Like, so yeah, just the way things grow and change, it astounds me, and I'm here for it. It's all exciting. Like seeing the social media boom to now, like kind of how you said, it's like a plateau of just like there's so much and it's all happening and it's all kind of the same and it's all kind of equal. And we watch some get sold and bought and change enough to where people don't like them anymore. And I look forward to getting back to a simpler time. And I don't know how that's going to come about, but I know it's gonna be just everybody gets sick of the oversaturation and wants to disconnect, or there's going to be some kind of major hiccup. We're talking like oh, the internet's just gone. How did the internet go? Like when everybody the jokes like, oh, they broke the internet. Like all it takes is a big surge of something crazy and everybody in the same place all at once. Like you can break something. Like anything can be broken.
I mean,
One
just
day,
the
if
way
that
they,
happens, I'm gonna be sitting
yeah.
pretty. I'll have my little power generated bicycle and my physical media, and you will pay me. You'll bring me food and tribute to watch my movies as I pedal for you. That's the world that I want to live in. The post apocalyptic world of no more digital, where you've got to find somebody who can sing to hear a song, or like see a band perform out of a U-Haul truck in some parking lot and just bring it back to the people.
He just wants to
Let's
run
get
around
weird
being a
with it.
bard.
The snacks, we're all just bartering and trading again.
Right?
Hey, we're gonna go to Arizona. I hear this guy's got the whole Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th collection. Yeah,
He's
it's
got it
4K.
all.
We're gonna go drive out there. He said he
Man has
just
the right to scream.
wants us to bring in some sourdough bread.
Look, you touched on cosplay community, horror community, and I've seen your recent cosplays from your What We Do in the Shadows to you did Ash from Evil Dead or Evil Dead 2 or Army of
Yep,
Darkness or Ash
yep, yep.
versus Evil Dead. And yeah, you're working on a Scarecrow
Love me
one now,
some
I
that.
believe. How did you get into that? Like that's
Yes.
interesting.
It all started with Freddy. I was Halloween for Halloween one year. I did Freddy Krueger. I think this might have been 2000 or 2001. It was pretty much fresh out of high school. Before A Thorn for Every Heart, but not very much before. But I got, cheap Freddy Krueger costume. I thought it was cool at the time. They still make the same mask. It just is not as good of quality as it once was. It's thinner pull. The paint isn't as good as it was when I bought it. And I cut the mouth out so you could see my mouth from behind it instead of the fake teeth or whatever. And for some reason, that just weirded everybody the hell out at the party. And I was running around in character the whole time. And I just thought it was so fun. Flash forward to like, maybe a decade later, or maybe 2009, I started to kind of look for like better quality stuff because mine, I think, was getting kind of crappy or something. Or actually, I remember a girlfriend got me a replica Freddy Krueger glove, and it was metal, it was real. I was like, this is badass, like I didn't know it existed. Like, how did you find this? Like, what the hell? And then, so I did little research, went down the rabbit hole, and then found that there was actually quite a few independent mask makers and people that made replica gloves from not just the first movie, but from like all of the Nightmare movies, and that the gloves slightly changed for each film. And so I was like, no way. And I started looking into masks. And then I remember there was a forum, yes, an online forum that was the Springwood Slasher Forum. And it was just all Freddy Krueger stuff all the time, bunch of nerds sharing their collections, talking about where to get stuff, who makes the best this or that. And I ended up tracking down this artist, James Udegraph, who does incredible silicone masks. He's an artist. He's a very talented singer, musician as well. But he just did this killer sculpt of Freddy Krueger, like looks just like Robert Englund. He made versions of the part one film, the part two, and the part four, and I just had to have one. And I saved up and I got the part four, and it's silicone, so it moves with your whole face, and it's like it'll last forever. It won't decay like latex. And it just so realistic. It's creepy to the touch, everything. And I was just floored. And so I got this for my 30th birthday. It was a present for myself. And I went to the 25th anniversary screening of A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors. And I dressed up as Freddy, had the costume. I have the right glove, but I did have a metal accurate glove from the franchise. And I just fell in love, like playing the character and being him. And then I was like, who else can I do? And I did a couple different versions of the Joker, I've done my own zombie makeup over the years. The vampire stuff, which was obviously inspired by what we do in the shadows. Um, I don't know. I repainted and rehauled a couple Myers masks and some Leatherface masks. I've owned a lot of horror props and replicas and costumes, and I've sold a lot as well. So I usually will get something, with the exception of Freddy, which I've had now for over 10 years, and he's still going strong. The mask has had quite a few repairs for tears and just tear over time. But it still looks good, still works. I still cosplay as Freddy when I can. And for a while was even doing conventions and like appearances as him for certain things, and that was freaking so cool. I remember did a Halloween party where I was just paid to be a professional Freddy for the night, and that was a blast. And then did a couple of horror hunts in recent years where I created my own character and got to haunt people in this haunted attraction for a couple of years. And it's just something I always thought was fun. I always like dressing up and playing pretend. I've always been a big nerd, always collected toys, always been into making toys and kit bashing stuff. So I like to buy a lot of prop collectibles and then modify them so they're just a little bit more realistic or a little cooler to my tastes. And it keeps me
Listen.
sane and it keeps me out of trouble for the most part. So
Oh yeah,
just a
dude.
passion, really.
I used to love like Spawn toys, just the level of detail and stuff they put into them. I used to super glue my toys together as a kid. I get that. I uh I think I did that with a Spawn and like Starship Troopers. You know the big bugs. They used to have toys back in the old days, and
Yeah,
I just super glued like a Spawn torso to like the legs, and it was just the coolest toy ever. And I haven't thought about that
that's
in a long
cool.
time. I was just thinking, I was like, wow, that's kind of cool that you would enhance stuff or just like, make it look cooler or different.
I think some of my favorites as a kid is I remember I made Darth Vader from the end of Jedi when he's got like his mask off and he's like, so what I did was I cut off half of Darth Vader's head, like the top half of his head, and then I cut off the top half of RoboCop's head, and I put the top half of RoboCop's head on Darth Vader, and like hollowed out the helmet the best I could to get it to kind of sit on there or take it off him. But and then I cut off his hand, which I didn't make reattachable. If I made it again, I would have easily been able to do that. But and then I made a Cyclops from X-Men, the cartoon, before they made like the Cyclops with his hair and the visor. It was always like the hooded costume
Yeah.
action figure. And I don't remember what I used to make that, but I think I made the visor out of like Legos and just like glued them and sanded them down and painted them or something. Yeah, pretty
That's
cool.
really cool.
But
That's always good to
yeah,
work with your
if it
hands.
doesn't exist, you got to make it. Yeah, got to make it. But yeah,
There's
the
no limit.
Scarecrow one that I did just as for fun, just for funsies. I bought that thing on Amazon. It was like $9. And I initially was going to use it for Halloween decoration. I was going to make a full on scarecrow in my yard. And I just didn't have the time. It was a busy month. I was actually in a play in October. I was in Little Shop of Horrors. I got to play the
Nice.
dentist and a bunch of other characters. And so I didn't really have time to do what I wanted to with them. But then after Halloween was over, I had kind of the post Halloween blues. So I just kept working on them. And I figured, it's coming up on Thanksgiving. It's still harvest. It's the scarecrow. It still counts. And now he's got a Santa hat on. He's looking festive.
He's the scarecrow for all the holidays. He's the holiday
Yes,
crow.
indeed. No, yeah. And I always was like that. Like I have a Chucky doll, life-size Chucky doll, where I would like put Christmas hats on him and dress up. I have a haunted ventriloquist doll that's named Norman. Um, and he's got some antlers on him right now. And it's a mix of
Nice.
toys from Home Alone and Elf and Christmas Vacation and Rudolph and little mix of Gremlins and Chucky and Tiffany and pop culture sprinkled in there. Nerd stuff. Always makes
Yeah.
me happy.
That's the best thing you should do. You should have hobbies that make you happy. I don't know anybody that would try to have a hobby that doesn't make them happy, but having stuff that's just kind of rooted in like your past and just kind of
Well,
like the cool stuff that you wish you could have had when you were younger, and then you have
it's
big
not
boy
to say
money.
that those hobbies can't be frustrating or maddening because there's always more that you want. If you're anything like me, you start a lot of stuff and it takes you a lot of time to finish them, but there's always something started and going. It's like, I know I have more projects throughout my house that I could work on. Like for a while, I got into redecorating and designing Star Wars droids. And I know I have a droid that's waiting somewhere to be finished. And I know I've got music that I want to finish. So but yeah, talking music. I'm hoping to put out some new tunes for a band that I started during the pandemic with a friend called the Dead Wolf. And just due to life and circumstances, like we weren't able to get things going the way we would have wanted when we had done the songs. And now life is in a better place and things are looking well that we might be able to restoke the flame and kind of get some more tracks going. So I think our new plan is to release the first two songs that we did and do that as soon as possible and then just start writing the next batch and just
Nice,
kind of piecemeal them until we have the time or the interest or energy in doing something more substantial. But they're
nice.
really cool track. I really liked them. When we were doing it at the time, we called it new music for old emo people. So it's a lot of it's very deep rooted in our upbringing and that style. And I feel like lyrically and very angsty, very pandemic driven because of just the anxiety of that whole time.
Oh yeah,
And excited for that. Super stoked for re-releasing some music with a thorn for every heart, especially those b-sides, which nobody's really ever, I don't think we were even showing them to many people when we were getting ready to possibly release it. There's a few diehard people and family and stuff that have definitely heard it, but it's cool to hear them like this and remastered, and excited to share that with the world and get pumped for the show with Static and the Juliana Theory on February 8th. And we're going to kick some ass and hopefully it's not the last time. So
I would hope, but
we're always
at,
open to it. We keep the
yeah,
door open and, we stay in touch. We're all still friends. Uh, you know, Unfortunately, our regular current drummer Matt, he's it's not unfortunate because he's expecting a child and the delivery date was a little too close to the show, so our boy James is going to fill in. And we did play with James at emo night and he's played with us before. He's an amazing drummer, our Canadian brethren. So we're excited to play with him. The songs are going to be tight. The boys have been practicing, and we're going to get a few full band practices in before the show, but it'll be great to be back in Cali and see a lot of the old gang and the fam. So if you're in the area, come out, gang. We're calling you back out. Take your ibuprofen, get hydrated, and let's get weird.
yeah. It's always good to get weird with it, man. So at this point,
You
I
know,
wanted to
you
say,
know,
you got
down.
time for fan questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Heck
Dig
yeah!
in.
All right. First question, Martin Paul asks, how did you come up with such a cool band name? Is there a story behind it?
So it was a very arduous task. I remember there was quite a long list of band names. It was kind of that era of almost pretentious band names, like a sentence for every band name, basically. Um, and so we wanted it something long and something with an acronym. I think at one point we were considering Cross Your Heart, but we didn't want um to be like construed like religious or Christian or anything with the cross. So we tossed around some other ideas. I was pretty partial to Summer So Bleak, which ended up becoming one of our song titles. I I did kind of like Cross Your Heart as well. I do not remember who suggested A Thorn for Every Heart, and all I could think of was the Poison song. And in all honesty, there was six of us back in the band in the day, because we had the two guitar players, bass player, drummer, violinist, and myself. And there was a lot of cooks in the kitchen, and it took a long time to just come to an agreement. And I think we narrowed it down to like three or two, and then we just voted. And A Thorn for Every Heart had the most votes. Everybody else conceded. In a true democracy, okay, we did it. And then yeah, the rest is history. We went with it, and At Faye was born, and we've been confusing people when we tell them our name ever since.
All right. So Effie Gardner asks, what was the influence behind a streetcar named Desire?
God, I believe so. I came into the band, I auditioned to be the singer. The band was already pretty much put together. Joel Holt and Aaron Peck and Jeffrey Harbor and Justin Powell all formed the band. We had Joy Welling, who was our violinist. She actually passed away a few years ago in a tragic rock climbing accident. So we miss Joy. But God, I to how Streetcar came about. I know I always like to mix a little bit of truth with fiction. And I know that at the time, I think I was writing about a previous breakup, and I believe Jeff was also writing something similar. And then the name Streetcar, a lot of our names were just picked either from movies or plays or like inside jokes or something that we just thought sounded cool. It's hard to figure out where it came from, but I know the overall vibe we were going for that was very angsty, very moody. And I one of my favorite lines in that song is there's a line about loneliness, sadness, and solitude. These are a few of the things I've been through, and I'd always just think of that song like ring dun, 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 whiskers on kittens, like, and I it's just to have that go into kind of a dark place was cool. So I think the overall vibe was just to be dark and brooding and just kind of get out some of that angst that we were feeling over that past relationship, and a lot, and then mix it with enough darkness that it would kind of be ambiguous or interesting to somebody that maybe wasn't going through exactly that.
Yeah, it's a good question there.
So
T,
it is a good
yeah,
question. Damn. Good
yeah.
job, girl. Good job.
T Williams asked, like, whatever happened to that new record they were making? I think you kind of covered this, but I still wanted to
It
give them a shout out
still
because
it
they asked.
still exists. Thank you for keeping on our asses. The only thing that keeps us really going is that people still appreciate it and they're still asking. I've often, responded to people on our Facebook page, and if people have wanted to hear something, I know I've sent out another old B-side back in the day. I've shared ongoing projects with members from the band, just to keep people, hey, we did this back in the day. Not a lot of people heard it. Would you like to hear it? Here you go. I've always been one to give back to the fans as much as we can. And that's what we hope to do with this next record is give you guys a couple of new songs and then give you basically better, newer, improved versions of songs that were shelved from that last record.
Excellent.
So it's
Thanks.
coming, brother. Keep
It's
bugging us. Just keep bugging.
Ashley Tyler Oscarson asks if you're they said their words, it's hard to sometimes try to read in the pronoun trouble. If you're pretty when you cry, if they're pretty when you cry, is that how the comment is written?
Um, I know for a fact that I am ugly when I cry, like a ugly, sapping, bawling baby. I'm a big crier. I cry at a lot of movies and stuff, and some things that I shouldn't cry during. I don't know why I'm so sensitive, but I would say no. I am not pretty when I cry. I think I think that there are people that look pretty when they cry, especially if they're able to do that one single tear that falls from the eye. And if they've got like beautiful green eyes or light blue eyes. Uh-huh. I'm looking at you, buddy. Yeah. So I think that is the element. And I think also to that, when we did write that song, I was thinking of a line from Spaceballs where Lone Star's like, "You are ugly when you're angry." Like I like to think like that, like because most people are ugly when you cry. So I think pretty when you cry is like almost like a fucking it's kind of condescending. Like, oh baby, you're pretty when you cry. Like, no, like you most people aren't. If you are, congratulations. You're very few select in the gene pool. So yes, I would say most of our band very ugly when we cry. Maybe if
Yeah.
anybody's pretty, I'll say James, the Canadian drummer. I just imagine his luscious mapley syrup locks, and because Canadians are so nice, I imagine they would also look pretty when they cry.
I imagine too. I think I can agree with that. So
It's a good,
Chris Cubit
good thinking.
asks, "What did you have for breakfast?"
Ooh, today I skipped over breakfast and went straight to lunch, and I actually had something I don't have often, which was McDonald's. I had Mickey
McNugget.
D's for breakfast, lunch, my first meal of the day.
Lunch
The
fast.
McDonald's by my house, they have a special deal, and it's a double cheeseburger, 4 chicken nuggies, and fries for like $6.
That sounds
So
delicious.
you can't beat that.
I
It
don't
was
care what
just the
anybody
right
says.
amount of something to munch. The fries were good. It was hot. Burger was fresh. Sue me. Mickey D's. Thanks for
It's
asking.
delicious,
I'll be sure to eat a
and
healthier breakfast tomorrow. I've got
I
some
can't
cinnamon
help
toast crunch.
I can't help McDonald's is looking out for my wallet sometimes, you know what I mean? Like, it's
Yeah.
a
If
portable
I would
meal,
have,
and it's delicious.
the McDonald's by me stops breakfast too early, and I didn't have a chance to get over there before they stopped. So it was lunch today, my man.
Cutthroat.
I'll eat breakfast for my dude tomorrow, though.
Let's see, Matt Skollenberger, I think that's how you pronounce that, does that include, artichoke hearts? I think in reference to your band name, A Thorn for Every Heart.
Yeah, artichoke hearts are good, man. I'll take some of that. Take some artichoke. I haven't had some good artichoke dip or anything in a long time. I'll take a
Yeah.
chip for every artichoke dip. How about that, my friend?
That's a good way to look at it, man. So, Miguel Angel asks, "How are you feeling? Even if they have nothing to get off their chest, it's still nice to be asked."
Oh, I'm feeling pretty good today. We all have our rough days here and there. And
Yeah,
I think it's kind of about how you feel the next day going forward and being
right.
able to look back on your best and worst days and go, I'm still here. So I'm doing good today because I am still here. And some of us are not here with us anymore, but we're here. So we're going to keep on keeping on, buddy. Thanks for asking. I'm doing great. That's a Kelvin
Let's
Cruz
see.
PSA.
I think that pretty much does it right there for fan questions.
And
Usually, as we approach this part of the interview, I like to ask my interviewee. I think you're the interviewee. I would be the interviewer. So,
yeah, that works.
yeah, I think that's the correct terminology. But I usually like to ask what you listening to. Like, if you have homies and bands that you want to shout out, or if there's just something that you've been listening to that's an earworm that you think other people should check
Right,
out. Or, I mean, if you have Spotify and you want to check your
right
Spotify and shout
now.
people
Yeah.
out, it's up to you.
Yeah, that is some tough. Gosh, there's this band, and I'm drawing a blank on their name. They're like a two-piece, and it's just a drummer, and I don't even think he's a guitar. He's a bass player, but they just like shred, and it's just like it reminds me of like older CKY kind of riffage stuff, like without all the pretentious, obnoxious antics. And they're just two dudes jamming. I wish I could remember their name. I know they're on Instagram a lot, or on Reels and TikTok. I see their stuff. Um,
There's a couple
I think
bands
there's a
like that out
band,
there.
one night band that I was kind of into. There's so many talented new artists out there. It's hard to even keep track. Um, I know one band that I'm super into is my buddy's band. They're called Von Kaiser, and
Yeah.
they're like synth wave, just ear goodness. I love everything they put out. I'm also still really into everything Dance with the Dead does. It's like that perfect
Yeah.
marriage of
Love that band.
synth wave and metal and riffage for me. Because I do like, I love me some heavy stuff. And I love dark brooding stuff, but I love poppy, catchy, pretty stuff too. So
Yeah.
I like to jump back and forth between, my throwback favorite albums. I'll still listen to Jimmy Eat World all the time. I love listening to the Black Parade. There's quite a few Static records that I love. Don't Forget to Breathe, Rattlesnake. I think the last self-titled one was pretty rad too. Um, I've been listening to our stuff a lot, hopefully to jog my memory and also to light a fire under my ass. And then I'm always just listening to new demos and trying to find ways to cameo with people. I almost worked with David Amberlin from All the Damn Vampires. We were going to do a collab. I did have to write a song and, submit it along with several other artists. I did not get the gig, but I still got to keep a copy of the song, and it came out really well. And it was cool just to kind of work with them and have an opportunity. And I've done that with a couple of synthwave projects and hope to do that, again with more hardcore or screamo bands or, I used to do quite a bit of cameos and I'd love to do that again. But in answer to your question, I'm always jamming Von Kaiser, The Midnight, Dance with the Dead, and then all the throwback emo goodness of my generation.
I think that's a very solid list. I don't think anybody could knock you for that. Other
Yeah.
than that, was there
You
anything
throw in
else you
some
wanted to go
classic
over? I know
rock
you
and some 80s too.
80s is great, dude. I mean, I'm 36. I'm turning 36 on the 13th, but yeah, my mom loved the 80s. I grew up with that stuff, so tons of Billy Idol, Oingo Boingo. I mean, Oingo Boingo. Funny that we should mention that, huh?
Yes, I love that cover song. And that just came out. We almost did the song from the Breakfast Club. And then we were just like, it was just it seemed like it was gonna be too boring. And
Don't
Oingo Boingo
do.
just sounded fun. And I did like trying to bring a little bit of my Danny Elfman swagger into that as well.
You did pretty good.
Um, that's such a fun song, and it still
I feel
gets
like if
loved
it
and
didn't
played
have
today.
that, like that cadence to it, like it wouldn't be an Oingo Boingo cover. You know what I mean? Like it has to have the
Right?
ooh.
That's the thing I regret that we didn't really do in our heydays, do a music video. And we did have the opportunity on our first record to shoot a music video, and we were told you can we don't really have the money for a music video, so we can shoot a music video or you can keep your publicist. And they gave us a binder like that thick of every interview that we had ever gotten, everything that this publicist had ever done for us. And they're like, you can fire this person and do a music video, or you can keep them and no music video. And just we didn't want to kick somebody out that was clearly working so hard for us. So it was like it's kind of like,
Part of your
oh, we didn't want to
team.
be those guys. And
Yeah.
now in hindsight, you know what? Hey, sorry, you'll get a new job. We really want that music video.
Probably would have done things a little differently.
I would have made that video, damn it. If only we were on Shrek 3.
Hindsight is 2020, but I mean,
Mhm.
I mean, it's somebody doing something for you. I mean, I think that you stuck to your guns, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think
If I
for
had
that's
to
pretty
do it again, I would.
much So I think that pretty much wraps it up for us here today. You guys got your shows coming up. You got new music teased here today. I think we had a
Yep.
great
Yep.
interview here today. I appreciate you, man, taking the time. A
Yeah, it was
thorn for
cool
every.
talking and just shooting the shit. Thank you, Ryan.
Hell yeah,
But
bro.
yeah, dude, keep up the good work, and we'll stay in touch, and we'll keep watching, and we'll drop some news soon about new tracks. But tell the gang to keep your ears and eyes on that Spotify and Apple because it is coming. I'm gonna make it
Yeah,
happen.
hell yeah.
It's coming.
I'm all about it, bro. I'm digging
And
it.
if not, call me a chuckler. All right, dude. Thanks again for having me. Check out the show February 8th. We will be there with Static Lullaby and the Juliana Theory. Can't fucking wait.
Hell yeah.